Patrick, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you want to kill a gray man?
Oh, yeah. Let's, as you cleverly said, take a stab at the gray man, or the gray man might take a stab at you.
This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Chapter 15, The Gray Man, and our symbol is the Black Aja symbol again. That's what I'm going to call it now, because I've got no other name for it. The kind of duality.
The black side of the tower. Do you want to kill a gray man?
Let's take a stab at it. Outside the Emerald Seat's study, Egwene and Nynaeve found the corridors empty except for an occasional serving woman, hurrying about her duties on soft-slippered feet. Egwene was grateful for their presence. The halls had suddenly seemed like caverns, for all the tapestries and stonework, dangerous caverns. Nynaeve strode along purposefully, tugging at her braid fitfully again, and Egwene hurried to keep up. She did not want to be left alone. If the Black Aja is still here, Nynaeve, and if they even suspect what we're doing, I hope you didn't mean what you said about acting as if we were already bound by the three oaths. I don't intend to let them kill me, not if I can stop it by channeling. If any of them are still here, Egwene, they will know what we are doing as soon as they see us.
Nynaeve is pretty serious about acting as though she's already bound to the three oaths. She doesn't always succeed, but she does try from here on out.
She does try. But I think when it comes down to it, both Nynaeve and Egwene will do whatever is necessary, which is, and I see this talk in the server a lot, where like Egwene was a great leader through a war, but she would probably have been a terrible leader after that, because she is the type of character that will do whatever is necessary, and that is not good always.
True.
In an extreme situation, it's a valuable quality, but in less extreme situations, when, you know, the fate of the world isn't threatened, it's probably also a bad thing. And it leads to, you know, this is the thinking of a tyrant, is the kind of debate that happens a lot.
Assuming she doesn't change and she wasn't responding to the need of the times, which was the need was for someone who demanded power.
Right. And I mean, all tyrants mean well. Everyone means well. Nobody's like, I'm going to be evil today. It doesn't really happen.
I mean, sometimes I get up and feel that way.
You ever wake up in the morning and your alarm goes off and like, today I would like to oppress the world. That's what I'm going to do today.
Sometimes traffic makes me feel that way. By the time I get to work in the morning, I'm like, yeah, fuck everybody. Y'all can all burn in hell.
You know, it's good, a world where I'm in charge. That's a good world. I get it. I get the feeling. You know, it's a good road, a road that's mine.
That's why I love the Discord so much. It's probably the one world we've created where I'm actually in charge.
If I ever end up as one of the rulers of the world, I'll be sure to appoint someone to do my job for me, and then I will live in the Caribbean on my own island somewhere. I'll read books and probably make this podcast and drink.
We'll have to review the evil overlord rules.
Me and Jules can just make elaborate dishes and drink whiskey during the day, and that will be what we do, and read novels. That's all I want.
I'll have a massive dog sanctuary.
Yeah. I'll appoint you guys around the world for me if I'm ever appointed as.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just think, if we ever do dominate the world, it'll be on the backs of the podcast. So these people clearly will be our first...
The chosen will rise up. Exactly. And oppress the world.
Listen, you pledge your soul to us. We will grant you eternal life. I promise.
Sure.
I'll totally promise that. And And yeah, and we'll conquer the world, and you'll rule Australia, whoever if you want to.
Yeah, you can have Australia.
Yeah, we don't need Australia.
I really just want one small island. What I would really like to do with
New
my
Zealand.
life is very little, actually. I think that's true for most people. What I'd really like to do is lay around.
I'm mixed on that.
I'll
because,
go out for a walk now and then and stuff.
Yeah, like
I'll ride my bike and
I just don't want to have to work.
yes, not
That's
really.
That's really all it boils down to. Like I have lots of other things I want to do. Work gets in the way of them.
Yeah.
Do you want to kill a gray man?
All right.
Keep singing that.
Ooh, tangent. Okay.
We're tangenting hard tonight. Well, these are short chapters, so I don't feel bad about that.
Next thing I have is really short. This highlight: nobody is threatened by someone who has to scrub pots and turn the spits 3 times a day.
And yet, you manage to take over the White Tower from the inside when you're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a little foreshadowing for when
Elaida's pretty threatened a few books from now.
Yep. When Egwene comes back, and
it's a nice little foreshadowing. And then, like 3 paragraphs down, where Nynaeve is talking and she says, there are other ways to defend ourselves. If there were not, I said I would be killed every time they left the tower. We just have to reason those ways out and use them. I know several ways already, and so do you. They are dangerous. Egwene opened her mouth to say they were only dangerous to whoever attacked her, but Nynaeve plowed on over her. You can come to like them too much. When I let out all my anger at those white cloaks this morning, it felt too good. It is too dangerous.
So do you think Nynaeve is just referring to the weaves of air to wrap somebody up, or do you think she's talking about, like, I wasn't really sure what other methods
she's talking about blowing up the ground.
Without using the power as a weapon? I feel like that is using the power as a weapon.
No, while using the power as a weapon. I don't think they're talking about not using the power as the weapon.
So I thought she was saying, Nynaeve went on when the novice was out of hearing. There are other ways to defend ourselves. I think she's saying other ways other than using the power as a weapon. Because at that point, Egwene is asking her, are you sure you're going to stick with the 3 oaths? Do you really mean that?
Oh, yeah. That's what I mean. There are ways other than sticking with 3 oaths. Like, we could kill people. We could kill a lot of people.
See, that's not the way I read that at all.
That's the way I read it. I don't know that I'm right.
No, I don't either. That's interesting. It's interesting that we're reading that in 2 very different ways.
Like, yeah, sure, there's the oaths. And then there's not the oaths as well. That's an option.
Where I'm reading it is Egwene saying, so Nynaeve says, I meant it, which means she meant she was going to follow the 3 oaths. I meant every word, Egwene. So I meant every word, meaning I meant that I was going to follow the 3 oaths. There are other ways to defend ourselves. If there were not, so there's other ways than using the power as a weapon. Otherwise, I said I would be killed every time they left the tower. We just have to reason those out and use them. To me, that says I'm going to follow the 3 oaths and not kill people.
She's largely successful. Sure. Nynaeve kills very few people, considering how powerful she is.
The one thing that Discord's pointing out is that another effective way to not use the power as a weapon is to have a warder who can actually protect you and can be a sword.
But you use the power on a man who is a weapon.
That's a good point. You do sort of make the man a more powerful weapon.
You do.
You make him, he doesn't have to sleep, he's faster, he's stronger. I hadn't thought about that. The border wand almost, the warder bond, I said the border wand. The warder bond is actually almost creating a weapon.
It's much like that. I mean, a super soldier.
Who you can compel to do anything you want.
With your thoughts. Well, we were on that track a second ago, and I was like, Nynaeve kills very few people. You know who does kill a lot of people? Egwene. Egwene kills a lot of people. Just blows them out of the sky, at one point blows them out of the sky. But that's where I think of Egwene at her greatest, when she's blowing monsters out of the sky.
Totally.
Yeah.
When she's got the sa'angreal, Bora's sa'angreal, and a circle.
Of accepted and novices.
Mm-hmm.
That she pulls into the circle. How clever.
It makes a lot of sense to use them as batteries. They're not skilled, but they're still powerful.
Yeah, you can still use their power. Snakes and Foxes is saying Egwene is very much a pragmatist, and the rules don't apply to her. She will try to follow the rules until the rules are like holding her back from getting what she wants to do done, and then she'll break them.
Nodding.
We've been saying this since we've been making the podcast, but I see Egwene as like this quintessential...
Ruthless?
Ruthless is a way to say it. She gets singularly focused on a task.
Driven?
Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of readers dislike Egwene, because she's so focused, driven, and yeah, ruthless is a word for it.
Ambitious?
Ambitious.
That's the word you're looking for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's ambitious, and people don't like ambitious people because ambitious people go out and get it, and sometimes they step on people and or, blow a bunch of soldiers away.
I think it's important to clarify, people don't like ambitious women in particular.
In particular, yes. Sometimes ambitious men are celebrated. Oftentimes ambitious men are celebrated. Ambitious women are rarely celebrated.
Yep. And I always love the comparison between Rand and Egwene in these books because they're both pretty equally ambitious.
Yeah.
He feels like, he sort of has to be. He's not given much of a choice, but he still is like, yeah, I need to rule the world.
I guess there is that choice. There is that difference there where Egwene makes the choice to be ambitious. She makes she doesn't have to be forced into this role. She wants to do all the good that she can, no matter what, and she takes it upon herself to do it. Rand at least believes, it's also true, that he really doesn't have a choice. He has to make these steps or the world will end.
But Egwene wasn't trying to be the Amyrlin. She was forced into that position. She didn't have any choice.
That's true.
And so I think in a lot of the same way that like Rand was forced into being the Dragon Reborn against his will, Egwene has a similar like, well, now that I'm the Amyrlin, I have to do the best job that I can as the Amyrlin, and that means I have to be ambitious and seize power for myself.
And the best job that she can at like every turn that she makes, she wants to do the best job that she can.
She's always trying to do the best job that she possibly can. It just so happens that someone makes her Amyrlin, and so she wants to be the best Amyrlin that she can.
The two are working toward the same goals and almost literally doing the same things in a lot of cases.
Back to the chapter.
Okay.
Because we are about to get a dodge of a crossbow bolt.
Yeah, the next thing I have highlighted is just that scene. So the girls are walking through the tower and they're leaving the Amyrlin study. Oh, they're going to Elaine's room. As they came up on Elaine's room, Nynaeve stopped, knocked once, and immediately opened the door and put her head inside. Then she was letting the white door swing shut and striding toward the next, Egwene's room. She isn't here yet, she said. I need to talk to both of you. Egwene caught her shoulders and pulled her to an abrupt halt. What? Something tugged at her hair, stung her ear. A black blur streaked in front of her face to clang against the wall, and in the next breath, Nynaeve was bearing her to the gallery floor behind the railing. Wide-eyed and sprawling, Egwene stared at what lay on the stone in front of her door, where it had fallen. A bolt from a crossbow. A few dark strands from her hair were tangled in the 4 heavy prongs meant for punching through armor. She raised a trembling hand to touch her ear, to touch the tiniest nick, damp with a bead of blood. If I had not stopped just then, if I hadn't, the quarrel would have gone right through her head, and would have probably have killed Nynaeve, too. Blood and ashes, she gasped. Blood and bloody ashes. Watch your language, Nynaeve admonished.
Even in a life or death situation.
He now.
Yeah, come on, Nynaeve. It's okay. You can curse a little bit. I wonder how much of that is Ta'Veren tugging from Rand, keeping them alive. That like
Matt's in the building.
Perfect stop and jerk that prevents them from getting punched through by a crossbow bolt.
Yeah.
How lucky is that?
I'm just adding to your theory that, Matt's in the building.
Oh, yeah. It could just be chance twisting.
On Rand's do you think it was Rand's behalf too, Aradia?
I always thought it was Rand's. That was like Rand's Ta'Veren pulling that he needs them alive. So that that made her jerk at just the right time.
It never really says why she stops, but Egwene grabs Nynaeve's shoulder and starts to ask a question. She says, what? And then I
think she's saying, what do you want to say to both of us? I agree with Aradia's theory that these girls, they get some of the Ta'Veren luck just because they're needed by Ta'Veren.
Because
So
they're Moraine's part of it.
yeah, they have plot armor, basically. Even though they're not themselves the source of the plot armor, they still get it.
Yeah, Ta'Veren by association, which is true in many different cases.
These 3 threads traveling through a pattern, pulling on the threads around them, they pull the most on certain threads, and they're pulling most on
The threads closest to them.
AKA our secondary characters or our primary non-Ta'Veren characters.
Oh yeah, think of close to them as closest in importance in their lives, not physical closeness.
Totally.
Although that happens too.
I don't think there's any relationship between, just like with the dreams, there's no relationship between the location of your dream and your physical closeness. I think there's something like that going on with...
I think Discord wants us to express also that the 3 strong Ta'Veren, the boys, are that strongly Ta'Veren because they're so close to Bella.
Right. Well,
And so Bella's strength filtered through the boys is then...
clearly.
Right.
Clearly.
Yes.
I think we've made that point before. I figured it went unsaid that Bella is the source of all this Ta'Veren pulling. That's how it works.
And the main character of the entire series.
It's trickle down Ta'Veren, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a real thing,
Trickle
right?
down Ta'Veren.
Trickle down Ta'Veren.
Right.
Somehow.
Naturally. Yeah, because that's how it works.
So this crossbow bolt just barely misses them.
Nynaeve tackles Egwene to the floor. They're laying there and they don't see anything, but Egwene catches one out of the corner of her eye, basically. She rolled onto her stomach to peer through the railing beside Nynaeve. Do you see anything? Do you see him? I'll put a lightning bolt through him. She could feel it building, pressing on her to loose it. It is a man, isn't it? She could not imagine a man coming into the novices' quarters, but it's impossible to picture a woman carrying a crossbow through the tower. I don't know. Quiet anger filled Nynaeve's voice. Her anger was always at its worst when she grew quiet with it. I thought I saw, yes, there. Egwene felt the power pulse in the other woman, and then Nynaeve was unhurriedly getting to her feet, brushing at her dress as if there were nothing more to worry about. Egwene stared at her. What did you do, Nynaeve? Of the 5 powers, Nynaeve said in a lecturing tone, faintly mocking. Air, sometimes called wind, is thought by many to be of the least use. This is far from true. She finished with a tight laugh, hearkening back to the scene where Swan is giving Nynaeve a lecture on what power is.
And wraps up Nynaeve and puts her on the ceiling. And Nynaeve saw that and remembered it.
I think Swan's lesson is that, well, the way I think of Swan's lesson is that power is using your tools, using the tools at your disposal well, not force.
Well, it's still force.
It's force, but...
It's not deadly force.
She's like, look, you have this thing that nobody thinks to use ever. What's a big man with a sword or a crossbow gonna do when you turn the air around them into jelly?
Totally.
Which is what Nynaeve just did.
You have to worry a little bit about Egwene immediately going to a lightning bolt as her first instinct.
Blowing a hole through the wall and killing a bunch of novices?
Or just, releasing a lightning bolt inside and just violence as her first instinct.
Yeah.
She's, I think more evidence that she's suffering a little bit of PTSD from her imprisonment with the Shan-Chen.
And she was taught how to do this. Like I was bringing up recently, women at their level of training are not supposed to even know that those kind of weaves exist.
And that's her first instinct.
Is to, blow a giant hole through whatever the problem is.
Mm-hmm. Not saying it's not occasionally very effective.
Right. Egwene scrambled up to hurry after her around the gallery. Before long, a man did come into sight around the curve, dressed in plain brown breeches and coat. He stood facing the other way, balanced on the ball of one foot, and the other hanging in midair as if he had been caught in the middle of running.
With a dagger in his chest. Now, we think that it was the other gray man that put the dagger through his chest and took the crossbow bolt.
The ladies seem to think that, there was a third gray man that did the rest of this.
A second gray man.
Oh.
Right, because there's one here that's dead, and there's the other one who stabbed him.
Oh, yeah, I read that wrong. There's only one here. But right, we know now that it was Slayer?
So, I was reading chapter 29.
Okay.
Suan states that Shiriam found a gray man in her bed. But it's a gray woman.
Uh-huh.
So it's just a female gray man. I couldn't really figure out the timing. I had some trouble with that. What I think happened, there's the gray man, the gray woman, and then Slayer. Gray Man 1 had the crossbow bolt
Hmm.
and shot at them. When he was seized by Nynaeve, he was killed by the Grey Woman with the dagger to the chest. I think they were together.
Gotcha.
Then she went back, got the arrow, and reported back to Slayer, who killed her and laid her out in Shiriam's bed because Shiriam was the one who...
Was supposed to make sure this plot didn't fail.
Exactly.
Which is why she's there now.
Exactly. She was supposed to come up and check to make sure that the girls were dead right after they were shot by a crossbow bolt. She was going to discover them.
Right.
And possibly cover up the evidence? Who knows?
The hilt of a dagger stood out from the man's chest. His face sagged, and death had already half closed his eyes. Although, when Egwene looks at him, she realizes that he isn't holding a crossbow.
Right, so I assume that the Grey Woman took the crossbow, stabbed him and took the crossbow.
I mean, that wouldn't work if he's surrounded in air jelly.
No, you think it was Slayer that stabbed him and took it? I don't think Slayer would leave a knife behind. So I had some trouble figuring out exactly when the Grey Woman was discovered, because it's something that Suan mentions happened to Shiriam later. So at any point between now and chapter 29, Shiriam could have come back to her room and discovered the Grey Woman laid out. It could even be right after she leaves this scene.
I always assumed that it was at least two Soulless and Issam, right? We know that he was there.
We know he was there, and we know there's at least two Soulless because we see the two bodies.
Right. But the exact series of events is really hard to puzzle out.
Who stabs who, and then...
Who shoots, and then who stabs. And then
right.
Who kills the third. Well, we can assume that Issam kills the third. Whatever.
Oh, here's an idea. The female Grey Man had the crossbow. She's the one who fired it.
Nynaeve freezes the Grey Man, so the Grey Woman makes sure there's no survivors, plunges a knife into his heart, runs off, and for some reason she's also executed.
For failing. And so Slayer kills her.
Sir Septon's talking about how the air jelly makes it confusing because we don't know the exact profit. Like, if someone's held with Nynaeve's air jelly, I'm using air quotes because we don't know exactly what she's doing, can they be stabbed while they're being held like that?
I would assume, because he was caught in mid-run. He wasn't stabbed before he was caught in mid-run, or else he would be falling over.
Yeah.
So he must have been stabbed after he was caught.
Right, he would have to be.
And so, yeah, I'm assuming you could stab somebody and or take the crossbow out of his hands.
Bands of air is often the way they seem to describe it, as opposed to like a full body casing.
I think you can do both.
You can.
And I think in this case, she's doing a full body. She just turned the air around. That's because that's what Suan encased them, everything except for like their head. So Shiriam pops up, dark friend alert.
Like immediately.
Yeah.
They come around the corner, see the dead guy floating in the air, realize there had to have been another one because someone had to stab him.
Right.
While he was floating in the air, right? We know those things are true. Calm yourself, Nynaeve said. But she peered both ways along the gallery, jerking at her braid. Just be calm, and we will figure out what to... Her words cut off at the sound of steps on the ramp leading up to their level. Egwene's heart pounded, seemingly in her throat, eyes fastened on the head of the ramp. She desperately strove to touch Saidar again, but for that required calm. Skip a sentence. Shiriam Sadai stopped at the top of the ramp, frowning at what she saw. What in the name of the light has happened here? She hurried forward, her serenity gone for once. We found him, Nynaeve said, as the mistress of novices knelt beside the corpse. Shiriam put a hand to the man's chest and jerked it back twice as fast, hissing. Steeling herself visibly, she touched him again and maintained the touch longer. Dead, she muttered, as dead as it is possible to be, and more. When she straightened, she pulled a handkerchief from her sleeve and wiped her fingers.
How much of that do you think is acting?
All of it.
Yeah. I think she let them in. I think she brought them into the White Tower under orders. And I think she's there to cover up the crime.
And she's there so conveniently at just the right time. Right. They should have died like 10 seconds ago.
Egwene doesn't even have time to, like, slow her heartbeat and embrace the source.
They fall to the ground, walk around a corner, look, and they're like, holy shit, and then Shiriam shows up. Mm-hmm. Although, like, some of this writing does make her seem genuine. Like, she doesn't like touching the Grey Man. I can believe that that's genuine.
Sure, I can believe her disgust at touching them is genuine.
Yeah, and all that. But I think that she is, if anything, surprised to see that anyone alive is there. And I guess I should expand on that a little. And what she says, like, what in the name of the light has happened here? It's like, why is the gray man floating in the air stabbed to death? That is not the way this was supposed to go.
Right.
And I do believe that she probably doesn't know what exactly happened.
Sure. Yeah, because she was expecting the crossbow bolts to go right through the two girls.
Right. And who other than Swan, Nynaeve, and Egwene know about that little lesson they got? Or how to use the air as a weapon.
I think she's
Nobody.
surprised.
Yeah. Likely, they should never have learned that. They would never have learned that weave if it wasn't for Swan messing with Nynaeve.
I don't know. I feel like that's a pretty commonly used weave. Maybe it's just commonly used by these girls.
Yeah, I don't think we see anyone else do that, except for Swan does it to Nynaeve.
I feel like it takes some power. Do we see Cod Swain do it ever?
Yeah, a lot of characters use it later, but I mean up until now.
No, I think that it's a fairly commonly used one. I just, I think the girls are picking things up really quickly, and that's the only opportunity they've had to see it.
Yeah.
They're being exposed to a lot of things.
And they're underestimated. Nynaeve's also has the fast learning talent.
Yeah.
She saw someone do this once.
And she, not only can she learn things from seeing them once, she can adapt them.
And she's also one of the most powerful channelers alive. Let's not forget that. Especially if we don't count the Forsaken. There's like a few women alive who are match her. And they're nowhere nearby yet.
No. We'll run into them later, but much later.
Shiriam and Swan and Moraine are pale stars in comparison to Nynaeve's son. Even Swan says Elaine is the most powerful channeler that the tower has had in 1,000 years. And Elaine is not as powerful, or I'm not sure exactly how all the ratings go, but not as powerful as Nynaeve.
And not as powerful as Egwene.
I don't think so. Yeah, no.
She's close, but not quite as powerful. That's why, back in book 1, when Moraine was like, I guess you can come. I'm like, bullshit. Nice way to be.
Oh, I said that all the way back then. She would never have let Nynaeve go.
No.
No.
Never. The next I feel is a bit of knowledge dump about gray men. They're soulless. They're not noticeable.
Yeah, Nynaeve asks how can he be more than dead? Shiriam explains what a gray man is, how that works. So we know that a dark friend who gives their life up to the DO to become an assassin essentially has the essence of their humanity removed. So they're like a husk, a thing that cannot really be described as alive.
I'd almost say an automaton.
Right. I have some headcanon that they're not noticeable and people don't see them because they don't have a soul, so they don't have this presence in the world, but I have nothing to back that up.
I mean, that's why they call them the soulless.
Right. Because their soul's gone. But my headcanon is that because their soul's gone, this affects the way they're perceived.
Totally. And we see that with the way that the Dark One is able to plop souls into bodies. Presumably, he has to remove the existing soul first.
Yeah.
And so what happens when he removes a soul and doesn't replace it? You get a gray man. And that's probably can only be done at Sheol because they say there are things that can be done there that can't be done anywhere else.
Right.
It's like the Kosuvra. But I also assume that like the making of gray men, it happens at Sheol where the Dark One just strips the souls right out of them.
Nodding. Wonder if they're almost anti-Ta'veren. They have no effect on other threads around them unless they directly stab one in like a literal and figurative sense.
Have we ever seen anyone actually die from a gray man stabbing? They seem to be the most ineffective. Like seriously, like the number of times they send gray men after either a channeler or a wolf brother.
I mean,
like,
not our people. We do see a bunch of people die from gray. We hear about it. All the people who looked like Ran that died in the area.
Sure, yeah, but not the people they're trying to kill.
Yeah, no.
They weren't trying to kill the boys. They're trying to kill Rand. Is there any, do we ever see a gray man actually successfully assassinate their target? Never. They're supposed to be super scary, but like
the putties of the Power Rangers. It's totally. Like they just they never really got anything done.
Yeah. So how do you get convinced to become a gray man? I assume it's like you're gonna be killed anyway, or
I feel like they're probably just more like compelled. Like you're an assassin now. Do you want to be a great, glorious assassin for the dark? Yeah, good. Come here.
Do you think you have to be willing?
They have to get them to go to Shale Ghul.
I always imagined it was like, here's a bunch of gold for your family if you'll come give up your soul.
Probably.
But I always thought that it was something you had to do willingly. It seems like if you deny the Dark One,
That's what I think.
he can't do that to you. Although I guess if you're a Dark Friend, you can't really deny the Dark One. So
Right? The fight is about choice, right?
Right.
Shiriam says, no gray man has dared enter Tarvalin since the Trolloc Wars. And then I have, shortly after that, you will speak of this to no one but me, or to the Amerlin, should she mention it first.
And at that first quote, no gray man has entered since the Trolloc Wars, but I let this one in.
Shiriam appeared to take their obedience for granted. She gave no sign of having heard them. Her attention was all on the dead man, the gray man, the soulless. There will be no hiding the fact that a man was killed here. The glow of the One Power suddenly surrounded her, and just as abruptly, a long, low dome covered the body on the floor. Grayish and so opaque it was hard to see there was nobody under it, or there was a body under it, rather. But this will keep anyone else from touching him who can discover his nature. I must have this removed before the novices come back. Does anyone find out about the gray man except Swan?
I don't think Swan ever finds out about it.
Wait, how do we find out about the gray woman and Shiri?
That's a good point that we do hear that Swan reports that Shiriam found the body in her bed.
I don't know that Swan ever finds out about this particular gray man.
This is chapter 29. The Amerlin is talking to the girls in the kitchen while they're being punished. But there is news that could not wait. Shiriam found another gray man, a woman, dead as last week's fish and not a mark on her. She was laid out as if resting right in the middle of Shiriam's bed. Not very pleasant for Shiriam. So killed without a mark on her. Not stabbed, nothing. But that means that the Amerlin must know about the first gray man.
Yeah, now that we're talking about it, I don't really see how Shiriam could hide it.
Right. And the key word there is she found another gray man, this time a woman. Yeah, gray men don't dream. I think Lanfear talks about the fact that gray men don't dream because she says only gray men and there was something else. I believe Fades, maybe, she said don't dream.
Yeah.
So only gray men and Fades don't dream. And because she was pissed off that she couldn't dream in her 3,000-year cycle in the Boar.
Well, there's still plenty of other things Slayer could have done.
Oh, interesting. So you're saying Slayer couldn't, pull them into the dream and mess with them because they don't dream.
They can't go there.
Right.
We know Slayer can do things that normal people can't, that just affect him in the real world.
I wonder if he could pull them in the flesh, even if they have no soul, and maybe pulling gray men into the world of dreams in the flesh would kill them, simply because they have no soul and they can't dream. The other option is that Shiriam killed the gray woman and put her in her bed to make herself to throw off suspicion.
That's so weird. Why her bed?
I assume that was Slayer.
Me too. It just seems to make more sense as like a message or something. Like that seems like this could have been you. That's the way I always saw that,
Me too.
In her bed, like it's a clear
don't fail.
Yeah.
I have access to your bed.
It's a clear symbol. The horse head situation. I just rewatched Godfather recently. It's like they don't do anything to the guy, really. They just cut his prized racing horse head off and he wakes up covered in its blood. They don't hurt him?
It's a horrifying scene, though.
Oh, yeah. But the whole kind of point is that, look, we have access to your home, and I'm talking about The Godfather, and I'm talking about Shiriam right now.
Sure.
We have access to your home. We have access to your most prized possessions. We have access to your bedroom. This is what we did to things near you and, all the things that are closest to you. Now, we could have done this to you, but you can still remain useful to us if... And I think the same thing is actually happening here. You can still be useful to us, but remember, and also make sure you're useful next time. Because next time it might just be you in your bed and not your horse's head or this gray woman. Right?
Right?
That seems to make sense to me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm nodding the whole way. I interrupt this program to say thank you to Gage K. Angstrom for pledging.
Thank you. That must be you, Suffet. Or Sufo, perhaps.
So I like that Nynaeve calls out Shiriam for showing up.
Yeah, pretty straight up. Egwene curtsied. So Shiriam dismisses them and says, go to your room, get out of here. Egwene curtsied and tugged at Nynaeve's sleeve, but Nynaeve said, "Why did you come up here, Shiriam Sedai?" For a moment, Shuriam looked startled, but on the instant, she frowned. Does the mistress of novices now need an excuse for coming to the novices' quarters, accepted? She said softly. Do accepted now question Aes Sedai? The Emerald means to make something of you two, but whether she does or not, I will teach you manners at least.
So I have another theory about Nynaeve's instant learning. She's just fucking brilliant.
She is.
She's really smart.
Why is she here?
Yeah.
Shuriam doesn't just walk around the novices' quarters for
no reason.
Like, certainly if she's walking through, like, this is like the children's dorms. There's only, and Shuriam she doesn't go get misbehaving novices either. That's not her job. They're brought to her. What is she doing? Walking around the kids' dorms.
It's an odd time.
There's no real reason to be there. No. Which Nynaeve sees. A sudden thought came to Egwene right after that. Forgive me, Shuriam Sedai, she said quickly, but I must fetch my cloak. I just feel cold. And she runs off to go pick up the arrow. The bolt.
Which is already gone.
Yeah. If Shuriam found that crossbow bolt in front of her door, there would be too many questions. Which is good thinking on Egwene's part, because she doesn't know that Shuriam knows about the plot already.
Right, yeah. So, assuming Shuriam's not already a dark friend and sent the Grey Man there in the first place.
Then, of course, that crossbow bolt's there. It was supposed to be through your head.
I like when she gets back, Nynaeve and Shuriam have been arguing more. Something more had passed between the women while she was gone.
Egwene leaves and comes back.
Right. And when she returns, she can see Nynaeve and Shuriam are even more
squared off.
Yeah, pissed at each other.
And tells Nynaeve, are you trying to make trouble for us? Like, why are you confronting Shuriam? What else did you say to her to make her glare like that? More questions, I suppose? I hope you learned something worth making her mad at us. She would not say anything, Nynaeve muttered. We must ask questions if we are to do any good, Egwene. We have to take a few chances, or we'll never learn anything, which is a good point.
Yeah, but she has to do it a little more subtly.
Nynaeve is maybe not the best at subtlety.
She's a blunt tool.
Right. Nynaeve is a hammer.
I was just going to say, she's the hammer to Egwene's sword.
That's what I was thinking. Egwene tells Nynaeve that the crossbow bolt was gone, and assumes it was another Grey Man that took it, which is what we believe.
Or the Grey Woman.
So that is why you light. Nynaeve frowned and gave a sharp tug to her braid. After a time, Egwene said, what was that she did to cover the body? Air, Nynaeve replied. She used air. A neat trick, and I think I see how to make something useful with it.
I couldn't figure out what she thinks to make with that. Is it an invisibility shield?
That's what I was thinking. Or, yeah, like Jango Fett saying, a duck blind. If you could just make something look like the wall behind you,
right,
you would be invisible. Unless you moved.
I just can't. I can't think of an example of her actually using it.
Me neither. It is like Mask of Mirrors, it seems.
It does seem like something that could lead to Mask of Mirrors, but it doesn't seem like this is. Maybe she just doesn't get there.
Right.
I like the discussion about the 5 powers and the fact that, like, healing. Yeah, I see it requires spirit and maybe air, but why water? Because we're mostly water.
Right.
Like I was always confused by that
like a
comment.
dumb question.
Yeah. Of course it requires water. I mean, it should also require like all 5 powers because that's the more subtle healing that Nynaeve uses.
Yeah.
But and then the last comment I had is where she wonders. They point out that Shuriam never wonders who stabbed the Grey Man.
Oh, right.
But they never come back to it. They never think about it later.
They never really pursue it.
Yeah. Even when she's Egwene's keeper.
Egwene touched her ear. The drop of blood had dried, but the nick still hurt. We are lucky we aren't both dead right now. Nynaeve's face softened, but when she spoke, her voice held something of the time when she had been the wisdom of Emond's Field, saying words that had to be said for someone's own good. Remember that body, Egwene. Remember that he tried to kill you. Kill us. Remember the Black Aja. Remember them all the time, because if you forget, just once, the next time, it may be you, lying dead. I know, Egwene sighed, but I do not have to like it. Did you notice what Shuriam did not mention? No, what? She never wondered who stabbed him. Now, come on. My room is just down here, and you can put your feet up while we talk. Separate. Man. It's a tough one. Especially since like all the vowels sound the same in that word. Separate.
Agreed. I think they should all be E's.
Yeah, it should just all be E's.
It would be easy.
Ah. No, that's a good one, Felron. That's a good memory trick.
Separate at a rat.
I haven't had to, well, writing show notes has made me, like, I'm writing more than I ever have since, like, school, really. I've never really had to write pages of anything for any other reason, so coming up with new things.
Will you hand me another beer? What are we drinking then?
The 6-pack you bought last night, Deschutes American Wheat Ale. Deschutes comes out with a lot of good stuff. I have one of their hats. Found it in a secondhand store. It was $4.
You're not wearing it now. Right
No.
now you're wearing a
Marmot?
Marmot hat?
It's a gear company.
A what company?
A gear like a backpacking gear company.
Oh, that's a nice pick on there.
Yeah. I only buy my hats when they're like on sale, like on clearance. There's this place in Portland that's freaking awesome. It's just a gear outlet called Next Adventure. And they run crazy awesome sales all the time. And I'll just walk through their main floor and look at like all the good stuff there. And, occasionally you can find like really nice things for like 70% off whenever the season changes. And that's awesome. Just got myself a new rain jacket recently for 80% off.
Nice.
I know. It's like a $270 piece of like nice snow gear. And like they also have this awesome thing that they just call the bargain basement. It's literally the basement of the store. It's just like a cinder block, whatever. And people come back and they sell their used gear.
That's where all my camping stuff is from. Everything I own is from the Next Adventure bargain basement.
I was so bummed out because there's this company called Ultra that made shoes that I was really fond of the year that I hiked the PCT, and I bought like 3 pairs of them just to hike the PCT. And I repaired the hell out of them. I sewed them with dental floss, and then I would go over my stitches with super glue to hold them. But they just fit me so well because I have wide monkey toes, and so I have a hard time finding running shoes that don't fuck up my feet. Yeah, me and Jules had a secondhand shopping day the other day. We went to Next Adventure, and I found the exact pair that not the exact pair, but the same pair that I hiked the PCT with, like 10.5s, the blue and gray.
The right model?
Yeah, the exact one. And yeah, man, Sir Septon, thank you for seconding me, because these gear companies, like, they come out with a really nice thing that you really like, and then next year it's gone forever. And they just change their whole thing, and you can just never get it again. They only run the thing for like 6-8 months. It's such a bummer. Can you tell that I'm passionate about this? I'll stop talking about shoes now.
No. I wanted to throw out the shoes that we frequently buy and both wear.
Vivos?
The Vivos.
Yeah, they make really nice leather stuff for wide feet people.
But not soulless, but flexible sole.
They make vegan stuff too for those of you out there who...
And so I again, unfortunately not NAD, but Vivo Barefoot is some shoes that I've been wearing for almost a decade now.
Oh, yeah.
And Patrick, I think, since I...
Like 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years.
But I always got my eyeballs open for nice stuff like that. Colorado. I'm just going to throw this on my browser and look later. Yes, Sir Septon. I hate that. Just come out with one good thing and just leave it. Just leave it. Stop messing with it. Also, why do all my running shoes have to be like orange? I hate that. I just wanted like brown shoes or gray. I don't want this neon yellow garbage. It's just not me, man. I know people love those bright colors. I know, but there's also people like me who hate those bright colors.
Yep.
And if you knew me, some of you have met me, not all of you, but I pretty much wear like gray, green, brown, black. That's it. Just
Earth colors.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?